I desperately want this channel to be more than just informational. I want it to be transformational. And this video is definitely one that could be the latter. Today, I'm going over one of the best drills you can use to run out more often. And it covers all three pillars of cue ball control. I'm not sure if that's a phrase somebody else has used before, but I'm going with it. Aim, tip, and speed. This is called the Stoplight Drill. I learned it from my coach, Demetrius Gelatis, through the Slate Billiard Club. I'll link it below. Now, here's why this drill is so transformational. Most of us treat those three elements separately, when really they're all part of the same equation, and they all affect each other on every single shot. So it only makes sense to hone them simultaneously, and that is exactly what the Stoplight Drill does. Now, I've only been using this drill for a few weeks, but it has already won me racks in real games, influencing my pattern play and quality of hit when it mattered. Now I'm gonna show you exactly how it works and what it is going to reveal about your cue ball control that you didn't know was missing. Let's go. Okay, let's get into the Stoplight Drill. This is the setup. You have the 7, 8, and 9. It doesn't matter which spot the 8 and 7 are set up on. It could be the head spot or the foot spot, but the 9 is always in the center of the table. The goal here is simple, you guys. Run out 7, 8, 9 in rotation, in order, and then continuously run them out. So you run out 7, 8, 9, and then you respot the 3 balls, and then you run out 7, 8, 9 again, and any ball, any pocket. That being said, I try my best in the way that Demetrius has taught us in the Slate Billiard Club Patreon is to try to run these out in a specific way that gives you a high probability of getting the right angle on each of these shots to simply get out. When I say simply get out, I mean without having to make complicated moves, draw your cue ball, or stun with very specific speed, that kind of stuff. It is very useful in drills like this to be able to use a natural rolling ball and then use a little bit of spin, outside spin, to go 2 rails, using a high outside 2 railer to go short rail, long rail, and then towards the next target ball. So we are going to learn all about getting into the right angles, what the right angles are, and then as we get deeper into this drill, we start uncovering the nuances of aim, tip, and speed and why they're important, and how you can base your shot choice based on those. So it's ball in hand. Go ahead and take ball in hand and just start on the 7. So this is the angle that I like. Notice how this angle is inside this line from the corner pocket to the 7 ball. This is a line I will keep drawing over and over because from the corner pocket to the 7 ball, it's about 30 degrees. It's a little less than 30 degrees. I like being about 30 degrees or a little bit over on the 7 ball, and I'll show you why. And it is simply because it allows you to roll this ball with a little bit of outside, high running ball to go 2 rails, short then long, towards the 8 ball. Notice how we are going towards the shot line here. And I understand that this may be a beginner concept to a lot of you guys, but it gets more advanced than this. Look at the line that it's taking towards the 8. I'm trying to get this line a little bit more towards center table. Part of that is speed control. Part of that is using the spin. So from the 8 to the pocket, it's a little bit more on this line. It's not inside of that line. So the reason this line is important, you guys, is that it gives me an idea of the type of cut angle where I really need to start looking at how much outside spin do I need on this ball to make this pattern very usable. Now, these first 3 balls, the pattern that I have run them out in, it is the ideal pattern to run these balls out over and over and over, except now I'm on the other side of the table. So let's look at those 3 shots again. Here, going 2 rails, high outside 2 railer towards the next ball. Here, high outside 2 railer towards the next ball. Notice how I have intentionally played position to stay in the wide part of the positioning zone for the 9. Let's go ahead and take the line tool out here. This is the position zone for the 9, right? You want to stay pretty flat against the 9 so that you can just roll this ball in and get really easy shape on the 7. There are a few shots that come up over and over on this 9. One of them is rolling straight forwards. If you get the cue ball on this side of the 9, shoot the 9 in the side pocket and then run the cue ball up table with a little bit of inside back towards this side of the table, the left side of the 9. Let's say you end up this side, then you would shoot the cue ball, the 9 ball, and run the cue ball the other way. Also, a stunning or running ball with inside spin to get the cue ball where you need it. Let's take note really quick that you almost always, for all 3 of these shots, 7, 8, and 9, want the cue ball ending up in these zones, right? Parallel to the 9 ball. You can find this zone very, very often if you just learn the elements of cue ball control. Again, aim, tip, and speed, and we learn to hone these through this drill. This is very, very useful, and I guarantee you will learn more in this drill than you expect to learn. Okay, so moving on here, I'm gonna go ahead and set these balls back up, and again, a continuous drill. So I shoot the 7 here, and I didn't, I'm a little bit upset. I didn't use quite enough outside spin, and the reason I say that is because take a look at this angle to the 8 ball. Remember, I'm drawing this line from the corner pocket to the 8 ball. I am now on this side, the left side of that line, the thick side to the 8 ball. So now I'm much thicker than a half ball hit, which is going to, the 8 ball is going to take so much of the energy of the cue ball out of the speed of the shot that I now have to generate the spin and more speed to now send the cue ball up to the short rail and then spin it around for a bigger positioning zone getting on the 9 here. You could choose to go straight up the table instead, but this drill works best and you learn best by trying to replicate this pattern over and over. So I'm gonna go ahead and shoot this 8. Look how much right spin I had to get on this ball. Take a note though, this table is very, it's brand new cloth, 4-inch pockets, so I'm a little tentative with my hit sometimes, but also it rolls a lot. This table rolls a lot, and so part of this is me getting used to the conditions as well. And it's a good table, or it's a good drill to try to get used to table conditions because it tells you how much the spin is affecting the path of the cue ball. Setting the next balls up, skipping ahead. This is where it gets interesting, you guys. I didn't quite spin the 7 ball enough. I didn't use enough outside spin. And the problem with getting a wider line towards this 8 ball is now I am too thick to really make this, comfortable, especially on a table like this. I end up having to spin this ball a lot and it almost misses. I make the ball very thin, right? I wiggled that ball in. So let's go ahead and watch that again. Look at where I make contact. Just on the inside of the pocket, it barely goes in. But here's where the learning is. This is where this drill really takes off in terms of learning. Look at the path of the cue ball. You might say, oh, I overhit that ball. It's not that I overhit that ball, it's that I hit the ball too thin to the pocket. With the right thickness of hit, that would have sent the cue ball to a different part on the rail. I would have gotten closer to the 3rd diamond and out. And that thicker hit on the 8 ball would have slowed the cue ball down and I would have gotten better shape. So this is part of the learning here, is recognizing, even if you're making the ball, recognizing how you could have done better, how you could have hit that ball better, and learning aim, tip, and speed is really a crucial point in how we dissect what shot to choose here. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up, get to the next shot, and let's actually cover really quick what I'm talking about. Okay guys, I think this is a pretty crucial spot to explain again in more detail what those 3 pillars of cue ball control really are, because understanding these is going to tell you what shot to play. Aim, tip, speed. Here's the thing that most players miss. They don't just coexist, they affect each other. So let's break this down one at a time. Aim, or contact point on the object ball. It doesn't just set the cue ball's new direction. A thicker hit slows the cue ball down, which amplifies how spin affects the cue ball off of a rail. And a thinner hit keeps more speed, which softens that effect of spin off of a rail. It's not just about the tangent line, guys. Tip, or tip placement, hitting off center changes your aim point because of the deflection. So tip placement changes your aim. Now I think a lot of you already know that, but what nobody talks about enough is the trade-off in speed. The farther from center you hit the cue ball, the more cue speed goes into rotating the cue ball instead of moving it forward. Now that added rotation can in turn increase the speed of the cue ball off of a rail with running spin, or decrease the speed off the rail with reverse spin. That is a huge variable in where the cue ball ends up. And speed, more speed means less cling on the object ball when you're aiming, so you end up cutting the ball more cleanly. Less speed causes more cling, sending the object ball on a thicker trajectory, forcing you to hit the ball thinner to compensate. And speed also changes how long it takes for deflection to correct itself. Fast shots carry the cue ball deflection longer, and slow shots recover quicker. Now I know what you're thinking, there's no way I'm calculating all of that on the table, and guess what? You're right. Don't do that. But at least knowing these elements affect the cue ball changes how you read the difficulty of each shot. And that is exactly what this drill trains. So with that in mind, let's keep going. Now that we understand a little bit more of what I'm talking about there with those 3 pillars, let's move on with our drill here so we can dissect more of what's happening when I do get out of alignment. Okay, a little bit more of a center high ball there, a little bit of outside, got pretty straight on this. Let's get forward here to set up. Okay, yeah, I'm pretty upset. This is a very wide line, you guys. Look how straight I am on this shot. This is not good, right? I just need to cut this ball. Like 10, 15 degree cut. This is not good, right? So I want to have a much wider angle or a much thinner cut because it is going to allow me to more naturally move the cue ball. So the issue here is now that I have to force the cue ball around with side spin. Again, we could just go straight up the table and back towards the 9. But my goal is, maybe because I'm stupid, maybe because I'm a perfectionist, maybe because I'm trying to learn more about how I can use a rolling ball with side spin to get on my next position. My goal is to use side spin here. Look how far to the edge of the cue ball I have to cue. I still mess it up. I hit it thin to the pocket, right? So that means that I was trying to compensate for the deflection that I knew was going to happen with all of that side spin, and I overcompensated and missed because of it. Okay, I am gonna make another run at this drill with some critical learnings as well, so please stick around. But this gives me a natural break to tell you guys something that has been going on with this channel. Some brands have reached out to me, both in and outside of Pool World, to be a part of what we are building here. While that's a blessing, I'm also incredibly selective. I'm only gonna partner with those that genuinely improve my pool game, and by extension, yours. I once had a conversation with my good friend Raymond Linares, who, by the way, beat Joshua Filler at the Derby a couple years ago.
What's happening? Let's go! Let's go! Yes, sir.
No way.
This guy is no slouch of a player. I respect this man's opinion, all right? I asked him, dude, what are you doing differently? And he told me about this coffee creamer that he uses to focus. It gets rid of jitters and it helps him stay calm under pressure. Now that was over 2 years ago, and I have been using Keto Brains ever since. Look, I didn't used to be a coffee drinker, but with all the crazy in my life, it has become a necessity. And now I look at it as an asset because of Keto Brains. I put it in my coffee every morning, and I usually do it again on my way to go play pool. If you're like me, Drinking coffee before playing pool is not great for your stroke. Nerves are already firing and caffeine just turns that volume all the way up. But Keto Brains changes all of that. You see, it is a nootropic coffee creamer. In other words, it supercharges your brain. And it also has L-theanine, which gives you that alert relaxation. And it combats that caffeine spike, keeping you calm, locked in without losing energy, just clear and steady. For a pool player, that's the game. So if you want to experience that focused, flow, and calm state at the table, click the link in the description or scan the QR code and use my discount code SENSEI to get 20% off. Using my code helps you get a better deal on a great product while supporting the channel at no extra cost to you. And it is genuinely a game changer for playing pool. And that is a win-win. All right, let's get back to it. All right, back into the drill here. We got another set going. So starting back with ball in hand, I hit that one pretty decent. I got a good angle on the 8 to just come straight up towards this third diamond. That's the goal, right in here. Ooh, I think I overspun that, but I got lucky with the speed. Okay, here's what happened in that shot. So you can see I was aiming to go towards the third diamond, right? From the contact point of the rail, trying to get the angle where I can go, where the cue ball goes towards the third diamond like this, about 2.5 diamonds up. And then that way it gives me a nice wide positional zone. If I draw a positional zone from the 9, I want to stay on the wide part of the zone, right back in here. The reason I say I overspun it is because look at where the cue ball makes contact with the rail on the way to the second diamond, not the third diamond. And now I am crossing a little bit further in on the table than I wanted. And I got lucky with the speed, because if I didn't hit the speed right, I probably would have been, cutting the 9 ball to the side and then running the cue ball up or down table with that higher stunning inside shot. So this is pretty decent. I'm just gonna speed through these ones because I think I hit it okay. Yep. Looks like I came a little bit short here. Let's take a good look. Remember, aim, tip, and spin, or aim, tip, and speed. Middle of the pocket, so it wasn't my aim, it was my speed, right? Because that was a pretty good line getting to the wide part of the position zone here. My speed was off, so something to work on. Now, maybe that's me being picky, but I really think that makes a big difference, because now take a look at the shot that I have to shoot because my speed was off. Instead of just trickling the cue ball forwards and landing in here, I now have to send the cue ball 2 rails back over. That was a pretty firm hit with some inside spin. And that is one of the options for that shot. You really only have 3 options shooting the 9, roll it forward, or high inside to one side, or high inside to the other side. There is a couple more spots in here with some good learnings. Let's try to get to them. Try not to make this video too long. Try to get you guys some value here. So zip through this. Okay, so I overhit, and I'm debating on whether to just roll this cue ball forward or to use the inside shot where I send the cue ball 2 rails here. I think I just end up rolling it forward. I sure do. Now here, this is a big learning moment, because I remember this shot and I think about it still, even though it's just a drill. But I don't know, I've thought about this moment a lot since filming this. So take a look at how I strike this ball. I'll let it play out first, and you can decide if I made the right choice here. Look at where the cue ball ends up. It's tracking more towards the 9 ball than it is towards the good part of the position zone, right? Rub the 9, I'm just gonna keep it going. I'm gonna keep the drill going, I'm gonna count it. But what could have I done differently? You might say, oh, I overspun that ball. If I overspin that ball, I'm gonna spin the cue ball deeper into the long rail, and then it's gonna go towards the 9. Let's see if that was the case. No, it wasn't the case. It's not that I spun the cue ball, it's that I stunned the cue ball. So here's my thoughts on shot making for long cut shots. With longer cut shots, you have an option, right? when you're playing shape with this kind of drill, this high outside two railer. You can roll the ball purely and just use spin to change the direction of the cue ball. Or you can do what I did here, and you can assure that you get better contact with the cue ball and more likely make the shot, right? So for better shot making, I actually like to stay closer to center of the cue ball. That means that at contact, like a stun run through, right? It's not completely rolling, but it's not completely sliding. The cue ball with a roll would have ended up on this path, right? And that would have opened up the angle, and I probably would have been somewhere down here. But because I decided to stun run through on this ball with a little bit of outside spin, it makes it easier to make the 7 ball, but now it's shortened the cue ball path to where it's gotten dangerously close to the 9 ball. So this is the trade-off in shot making, you guys. When you use more center ball, it can sometimes make it more difficult with your estimation of where the cue ball is going to end up, at least what path the cue ball is going to take, because you're not using a rolling ball. The most easy path for the cue ball is to roll, always. It is not to slide, it is not to draw. It is always to roll forward. And the sooner you understand that, the sooner it is that you can start playing patterns that get you running out more. But I made a gamble here, right? I gambled on, well, maybe I might not make the shot if I roll, because if I roll the ball, I'm gonna have to use more outside spin. And if I use more outside spin on this long shot, that means the deflection is gonna take longer to swerve back on place. I'm calculating all these things in my head, and in the moment I said, I don't need to calculate anything. I just need to make the ball right now. And my choice was to go with a more center ball hit, and that ended up almost screwing me over. Now that I'm here, let's skip to this next shot. You guys, I think because I was so tentative hitting this shot, because it was a thinner hit, that's why I underhit that shot so much. And now I'm at the point in this drill where I feel like, oh, I've hit this inside shot so many times, it's very easy. Take a look at what happens next. This is the run ender. Not because I missed the ball, but check out the cue ball path. I end up hooked by where the 9 ball is about to be in the center table, right? Because the 9 ball is going to spot right here. That means I won't see the 7 ball right here. Why did that happen? This is the last shot that I will dissect here for you guys. I don't think it's because of my speed. I don't think it's because of my spin. I do think it is because of my aim. I overcut this ball. Deflection took a little more than I expected, and I overcut this ball. Look, it barely goes into the pocket. It is right up on the point of that pocket, which means instead of striking the rail here, it strikes the rail further down table, and there's more speed and less time for the spin of the ball to decay from the roll of the table, right? The longer a ball is rolling on the table with side spin, the more that spin evaporates off the cue ball, right? Demetrius likes to call this spin decay. There's less spin decay here because there's more speed, and that is affecting how much bite the spin takes off of that rail, and now in effect it overspins the cue ball and sends it towards the middle of the table instead of the side of the table here. So there it is, 9 ball is blocking the 7 ball path. I don't know if that was useful to you, but it's not just completing a drill. It's not just trying to get a high run. It's what are the details from each of these shots that I can take away from whether I hit it good or whether I hit it bad, and then try to ingrain that knowledge instinctually in my game. So that's the stoplight drill. 3 balls, aim, tip, speed, all working together every single rep. Run it, pay attention to what the cue ball is telling you, and then take that into a real game and see what happens. You might be surprised at how often you end up using what you learned from this drill. If this video helped you think about cue ball control any differently, that is exactly what this channel is about. Like and subscribe if you want more of this. I respond to pretty much everything in the comments, so drop one if you've done a drill like this. What did you learn from it? Did it improve your game, or is this new untapped territory for you? I want to know. Thanks for watching. Happy shooting.